G'day Raleigh, and today we are honoured and excited to have Terrance and Kiara Ruth joining us in the Effluent studio here in Raleigh Founded. Terrance, you're running for the next mayor of Raleigh, and Kiara's doing some great things in the community herself with her own website and social channels. Thanks for taking your time out of the schedule today, guys. I know you're super busy with everything going on.
No, it's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, we're super excited to be here.
Yeah, you guys are probably one of the busiest couples in Raleigh, I imagine, out in the community talking to a lot of people, but I don't know if you've ever been on a podcast in Raleigh hosted by two Australians.
That's a no.
So that's one unique thing I guess we can bring to the
that's exciting.
to today. Yeah.
Well, we promise we won't drop too many Australian lingo that you don't understand.
No,
First, we want to say g'day, mate, and welcome.
Actually, maybe we should test them at the end and see how much. See much.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, have you ever
now.
been to Australia or?
Have not,
We
actually.
have not, but thanks so much for offering that. I think now Terrance knows where I want to go.
Yes.
What's the first thing that comes to mind when you hear the name Australia?
Food. So we definitely want to try the ribs and the steaks out in Australia. So the food is number one for me, but also the beaches. I heard that your beaches are pretty impressive.
Yeah, we're a bit biased, but we're surrounded by ocean. There's we've got like 10,000 plus beaches to choose from. So
With only
it's hard to go wrong.
20 million people sharing them, so you've got beaches to yourself.
She has a different taste than mine. Hers may be different, but what would you say?
I think maybe the unique Airbnbs there.
Really?
Oh yeah,
You
you've
know,
seen some of them.
Yeah,
been
I've
searching.
seen some of them. You guys have come into our lives, and now we want to go to Australia and look them up. I don't know where they are, but I know that they're gorgeous.
Wow.
Yeah,
There you go.
So it's working what we're doing. Okay, yeah. All right. Awesome. Yeah, now, so us and the audience, they'd love to hear your story and your background, like where you guys grew up, because you're both not originally from Raleigh, correct?
No, we are not. Yeah.
Where you guys went to school, maybe some of your early career, all the things.
Okay, yeah.
Like,
You
who
wanna
wants to
go
go first?
Yeah. So first, my father is from Southern Pines, which is about an hour out from here. And so he moved to Raleigh to start his career, actually, and then joined the military and then met my mom up north. So my background is more of a military family. So I was born in San Antonio. Most of my siblings, I'm one of six, we were born either near or on a military base. So from New Jersey to North Carolina, South Carolina, Texas. My father accepted a job in Orlando at a base. So our sort of travel is around the military in that sense. Both my mom was in the Army, my father was in the Navy. And so for me, it's been a lot of road trips.
Yeah, so I grew up a little different from Terrance, on the other side of you were actually born very close to where I'm from. So I'm originally from Little Rock, Arkansas. Went to college there, went to a HBCU for 2 years, and then transferred to a more traditional university right in the city where I lived. And so both of my parents, my mother is originally from New Orleans.
Love
yes,
that city.
me
Yeah.
too.
Talk about food.
Yes, Miles does too. I've never seen him more free in New Orleans. So
Really?
yes, my mom was originally from there, and then my dad's from Arkansas, just a little small city from there. So yeah, grew up there and worked there up until I met Terrance, and now we're here.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And how did you two meet?
So we both have a journey that is intertwined with our faith. And so that led us to a program called Bread for the World. Separately, we both connected to this program called Bread for the World, and it's an intersection of politics and your faith. And so we both attended a conference in D.C. I was coming from Florida where I was doing my PhD, and she was coming from Arkansas, and we met in D.C. and it was an amazing event. But I will let her share the story, and then I will try to make sure that my version of the story
aligns.
So yeah, what he said is very true. We both met at Bread for the World. Terrance was there on behalf of Florida. And actually, that was my first time ever riding a plane.
Oh, wow.
Headed to D.C.
What year was this?
This was what,
2012?
2012?
Yep.
2012.
Or 11. Wow.
Yeah, one of those. And so you're talking about somebody who's from a very small place, going to a bigger city, and got an opportunity to meet the love of my life while I was there. So I was like, I count this as a win.
Yeah. I'm flying all the time.
Yeah, I'm flying wherever you need me to
You have
go.
to do more of this traveling stuff.
Yeah,
There you go.
which kind of gave me my itch. But yeah, so Terrance and I, we met in DC and kind of went up to him and introduced myself, and he came over again and reintroduced himself. And so we kind of hit it off, and we decided that after that we did not want to spend a day without talking to each other.
Wow.
And that was a 3-day weekend. So
Yeah, wow, that's pretty instant.
yeah.
And my story aligns with.
More
Good
details
choice
later.
there. Good choice there.
Yeah, first time on a plane. Wow, have you done much traveling, like road trips or anything from Arkansas
so
growing up and stuff? Or?
We did a lot of driving. We just never left the city much. I spent a lot of time in Arkansas, really cultivating a life there, and learning the ins and outs of Arkansas. And so I stayed there a vast majority of my life.
Yeah.
And so I was very excited to travel to DC when I got an opportunity to go.
And
Now-
how did you end up here then? Both of you end up in Raleigh.
So I have family here on my mom's side, and my father's family has always been in North Carolina. They've really never left that hub. And then I also have family that was in Fayetteville, the military base. So North Carolina has been a big part of my life. But there was, after my PhD program, there was a job here to take on a low performing school in Southeast Raleigh. And so I was building schools across really the South. I was building schools, and the schools that I'm talking about, usually you would have to be embedded in the school system and industry to find the schools that I particularly served. And so most of my schools were in either juvenile detention centers, residential areas, so very unique settings. So they were starting a new model that was more preventative. How do we reach kids while they're still enrolled in their public schools rather than suspended or in the juvenile justice system? So Wake County was really innovating around that concept. And so they brought me here to launch that concept for them. So it's still going. It's called AMI Kids. And so it's the love of my life. But that was my relationship initially in terms of my career in Raleigh. It started out with serving kids who were trying to avoid being long-term suspended or put into the juvenile justice system.
Yeah, very important program. Yes. I know. I used to be an elementary school teacher, so I totally understand how valuable a program like that is. It's great to hear that it's still running. Do you still contribute to it in any way?
Well, education is really at the core of my being, to be honest with you. So I miss that job all the time, and it's primarily because of the students. In those settings, you're given flexibility to really enjoy, engage kids, and so you get to see the kids enter these programs with a long record in terms of mistakes they have made in their life, but you get to see the human. The person that's scared of the dark, the person that missed their mom, and so it's really, you feel the burden of trying to share how human and passionate and the potential of this individual versus what is written down. And so that's really was, the moment I got a chance to see the intersections of community, safety, education, criminal justice, jobs. And so that was really my intersection. Kiara actually has a degree in criminal justice. So we often share this passion of seeing individuals as human and what does it mean to re-engage people who have been in journeys or had previous mistakes.
I think that's the key, seeing people as humans. And,
Yes.
Often we're looking at studies and
Yes.
numbers, and we forget
Test
that
scores
there's
and-
real humans there
That's right.
who are dealing with trials and tribulations and just doing the best that they can
That's right.
in any moment. So
That's right.
I love that.
The students are human, and so are us parents. apparently. So you were a teacher as well as a principal, correct? In some of these.
Yes. So when we met, I was a principal of a school. And my kids, I was in Southeast Raleigh. I then accepted when Kiara moved to Raleigh and we started our family here. I accepted a job at NC State at the Friday Institute, and that's when I began to do research at the state level around the implications of education policy. And so this was the Friday Institute. And Kiara, she may have had limited travel when she was in Arkansas, but that is gone. Like,
put some miles on the car now.
Yeah, her miles are collecting miles, and so they are often allowing me to escape and see the patterns and the benefits and the wonderful elements of Raleigh by exploring. We've been to Tennessee, we've been to we've been everywhere. We've been to New Jersey, we've been to Virginia, and most of the time we changed our philosophy around traveling to the point where and this really was Kiara's idea. Let's take our time and stop at every key or unique coffee shop.
I love it.
Yeah. Fellow addict here.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah. Become part of our thing. We love it. And Miles loves it too. I feel like he just wants to know if there's cookies on the menu. So that is a requirement for him. And I'm like, if they don't have cookies, I'm like, I'm so sorry. We can't do that.
Did you have hot chocolates with cookies or?
He just is. They should have like either apple juice or cranberry juice or milk. He'll take milk. He's not a big hot chocolate person, but cookies and brownies has to be on the list if we're going to stop there.
I love it. And how do you find the coffee shops? Because we find it a challenge to find good ones. What's your technique?
Being Australians, we're a bit snobby with it. We have a great cafe. Australia and New Zealand, like we said this many times, has one of the best coffee cafe scenes in the world.
Okay.
We might be biased, but that's, other people will vouch for that.
Well, one of the things that's really important to me when I'm going to a coffee shop are the aesthetics too. Especially if we're going to be stopping there, like I want to be able to be in a space that not only like makes me feel good, but kind of fuels the work that we're doing on the road. So like if we're just stopping there for a couple hours, like what is it like? Is it big enough to where are there plugs available? So I'm like looking at all of this stuff.
We need some power.
Yeah, like when I'm stopping, but then also too, like I love to look at like what coffee brands they have. I know a big one in Arkansas is Onyx. And so if they have like Onyx there, I'm like, oh, we should go there because they have Onyx. Or if there's like a local coffee brand that they're using that's from North Carolina, like I enjoy going to those places. And so really the aesthetics and then of course the convenience to wherever we are. Now we have gotten off the road and went like 30 minutes outside of our just so I can go to a specific place because I had my mindset on it. I was like, I got to go there. I know.
We were, during the season when gas was at a shortage.
Oh, gosh.
She wanted to go to a coffee shop. and it was a trip. And I was just praying that we would have gas enough to get home.
So now you kind of see a personality. I'm like, if we run out of gas, we can walk. Terrance like, we are not walking anywhere. So yeah.
I always get stressed about the gas thing too. I get stressed about a lot of things like that.
Where I'm a bit like you. I'd be okay.
I'm the type of guy when we check into a hotel, I'm figuring out where's the fire escape. That's me.
That's him. He's like, where's he?
Always got to be prepared.
He calls us in for a group meeting. All right, guys, if a fire comes, this is how you get out of the building.
Well, actually, no, I did that when we first bought our house in August. I did that. We had a team meeting.
I think we've got to
you get out this window, you get on this part of the roof. And, anyway.
The time in which the time in which we had a team meeting was when we were making this decision around running for office.
Yep.
And some individuals, they look at Terrance, but really it's a family decision. And so I had to call a team meeting, and I had the benefit of talking to kids who grew up in a house with a political figure. And so they gave us some advice and guidance on how to be good parents to our son in this journey. And then also how to just be there for each other in this journey, because it's a long journey, but also it stretches what does it mean to be there for community, and then not just be there for community in symbolic nature, but really be embedded and have our whole family embedded in community as well. And so we had to host one of those, group meetings to talk through what does this mean, and so it was exciting to see the response of all of us. And so, so I completely understand the huddle.
The huddle.
There you go.
Well, obviously the team meeting was successful because you're both on the journey now. Can you share what some of that advice was for your family to manage this journey?
Well, first, I would have to say that Kiara launched her blog Banana Moon before this decision even came to place. And so, she sort of walked out in sort of in the public square, and her experiences as a child, her experience as a mother, learning what does it mean to explore Raleigh and the world with our son, and then being transparent about, our family as a whole, that allowed for us to tiptoe and see what does it mean to be in public spaces. And so we've been able to get advice just from her initial journey. So she really took the lead in terms of being in that space. And then from there, we had individuals say, listen, this journey will require that you be of support and present with people who are exciting and growing and starting new businesses and starting new careers, but also for people who are hurting, losing their jobs, lost to COVID, trying to launch a business and it failed. So we had to be there in those two spaces. So we had to be honest about what does it mean to carry that burden, and not in us as a family, be able to support people in both extremes.
Yeah, and there's, we see you out in the community. We follow both of you and see you out, with the people in the community, and you really working for everyone, which is what we love to see. And what was it? I know this journey that you're going on is incredibly difficult, and you have to have a greater mission or purpose. So what was it that really, inspired you or pushed you to think, I'm going to do this and do my best to make a difference and contribute?
Yeah, for one, most of my career is embedded in community. My personal life is embedded in community. When I was a child, my mom used to have us feeding the homeless. We used to be a missionary type ventures and task. And so for me, my default is being a student to the community. So the first thing we did, we responded to the community request for us to take on this role. That was number one. Number two, we wanted to make sure that not only did we respond to the call, but that actually we become students of actually what is needed in the community itself. And so we wanted to be accountable to the same audience that said that we would like for you to represent us. And so if we're going to be accountable, we have to listen first to see what it is that they need. And then the very last piece is that we're transparent with what we can and can't do, and what direction is needed for balanced growth in the city. And so for us, it fits our lifestyle. It fits our core missional values of transparency, trust, and truth, because our default life is in the community. Kiara's actively engaged in PTA. She's actively engaged in Girl Scouts. I'm trying not to eat so many Girl Scout cookies.
The Thin Mints. Everyone loves the Thin Mints.
So I'll let Kiara talk about her community engagement. But at the heart, if you rewind her Instagram before the announcement, it was community. And so I'll let you just share some of the things that you're passionate about in the community.
Yeah, I think when people ask me, how do you feel? Like what are your thoughts on Terrance, running for the mayor of Raleigh? And I go, this isn't something new to us. We met serving in the community. And this is just an opportunity for him to do it in a more public eye. So when no one was looking, we were already doing the things that we're doing now. It's just now people see it.
Yep.
And so it is a great opportunity, you know, for us to, you know, really pour into the lives of people who are where I once was. So, you know, Terrance talks about working with children, you know, in low-income populations, things like that. Like, I was one of those children. We talk about, you know, being in the lives of children who are hungry or serving the hungry. I was one of those people. Me and my family, we were one of those families. And so the opportunity that I get to walk alongside him and be able to be a connection for someone to say, hey, I know what it feels like to have to stand in this line and ask for food. And I see you. And I think that is, you know, just an opportunity for them to see that, you know, there's someone who's in leadership who's experienced something like I have, and I feel connected to her. And so that's just really been, when I think about how, you know, Terrance and I, he's decided to run, you know, this is just my opportunity to walk alongside him as we've already done, and it's just on a bigger platform.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how do you deal with, I think about this often, and I'm sure you can offer some advice for people listening. It feels like everyone knows the world is just like crazy chaotic, the last couple of years especially, and there's so many problems surrounding us. How do you deal with the overwhelm that you feel in regards to all these things that need to be solved, which can often paralyze you? And I know as individuals, many people want to do so much to help, but they just feel so powerless and overwhelmed by it all. And like, you're in a leadership position in having to manage and deal with all this. So how do you manage that yourself?
Yeah, I have to say that history gives us several examples of people who underestimated their existing power. These are people without resources. This is people that people normally wouldn't title as powerful, coming together and making huge change. And so I think the power rests in those that we really don't expect. So if you look at 2020, these were young kids. They didn't have the most powerful jobs. But they had concern. They had unity. They had a deliberate message. They had consistency, and it allowed for them to create a pivot in how we see jobs, how we see leave, how we see opportunity, how we see, I mean, you think about the world we live in now, large corporations are adjusting to a message of young leaders just voicing their concern. So for us, our role, I believe, is in standing with those who believe that their voice are currently not being heard. But also making sure that they understand that history tells us that that's the very audience that creates the change. And so our perceptions of power at a couple may be different than most people, but we believe that we are standing with those who actually wield most of the power. We are accountable to voters, not because residents are we want to see residents put us in office. We're accountable because we really believe that they hold the power in this city. We actually believe that we need to be transparent with those who are choosing us to be in this place and take this role. And I think that we need to be transparent in terms of what does it mean to get there. And so our role is really to facilitate the power that they wield, not the other way around. And so I just appreciate the history that we live in. We have a unique space in North Carolina where we're saturated with community leaders that have led during the civil rights era. Most of those victories were local victories. They were municipality victories. They were negotiations with the council and the mayor. And so you see where it was local victories, local power, people with very little monetary resources, but quite a bit of vocal and local power. And so for me, I just see power differently, and I see the groups that wield that power as being those who are residents and are living their daily lives. And now is the season where they're awoken, their eyes are open. And so allowing them to see that they can actually make that change. And so, yeah.
We actually went to the City of Raleigh Museum recently, and they have a great display there on the civil rights movement and what those local voices were and how they made a difference. And I thought that was really great to go in and read all of that, because you do hear so much, about the big names throughout that movement. And I remember reading and I was like, wow, it's really great to see what was done on a local level and how powerful that was for change.
Yes. I mean, you still have. Yesterday, I was teaching a class. We have Al McShirley. Al McShirley was an attorney that was advising Dr. King. He's still here. We have Dr. Harshaw. He's a studier. He's an expert on the mentor of Dr. King. He was giving us guidance on the role of his church. His church was started with 9 slaves. I mean, so we have a rich history here in Raleigh of people who said, we're going to see this city differently, and they did it. Shaw has an insane history around organizing and starting. And so some people just don't understand just the wealth of community organizing history, communal power and leadership that we inherited just by living on this land. And so for me, I think that tells a story by itself as well.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah. Now, Terrance, you have the family history here in North Carolina, so you're more familiar with Raleigh, I guess. But Kiara, and I apologize, Kiara, I've been calling you Kiara.
That's how you say it.
That's how you say it, yeah.
Kiara. So I think I meant saying Kiara. My bad.
It's the Australian one.
I'm interested to know your first impressions of Raleigh, though, and now that you've been here quite a little while and in the community so much, how would you describe the community of Raleigh? Because one of the things we love about living here is the community aspect and how people like to collaborate in business and people just really care about each other.
Yeah, so when I first arrived to North Carolina, my first thought was, wow, to Raleigh, my first thought was, wow, I get to raise my son here.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
I get to take him to all the parks. I get to, he can go to college and stay. He chooses to. And so just how valuable this city could be to him, was my first thought. Because like I said, I come from Arkansas and it's great there. But, Raleigh opened me up to so much more. And you speak about collaboration. I mean, once I tapped into the whole motherhood, mother community here, it was like the ball just started rolling and going. And so my first impression was, wow, I get to raise my son here. Because just as much as I love Raleigh then, I still love it. Things are, just the schools and the parks and the museums. Everything is just endless. It's like you have so many choices and things to choose from for your child. And so that was my first impression.
Yeah, that's awesome. The word I use all the time because we get asked a lot, like being from Sydney and lived in 5 countries, we've done a lot of traveling. It's like, why Raleigh? And then we're like, why not? But it's just such a very livable place.
Yeah.
It has so much to offer. That doesn't have like the big ticket touristy items, I guess, like Orlando or New York City or LA, etc. But we never run out of cool things to do, like get out in nature, the greenways and the lakes, festivals, events. And it's not just Raleigh, but the whole triangle area, and the towns within Wake County and stuff too.
Yeah.
There's always something going on. And it's just a great pace of life and then a great central hub on the East Coast to get to a lot of other cool places too. So that's great. So Terrance, when was it that you decided to run for the mayor, and what are 2 or 3 key messages or key issues that you think you could address?
Yeah, so it was really it was during the height of 2020. We began to get calls from the community around a decline in transparency in the local government, the decline in trust in the local government, and they were looking for someone that can lead up front. How can we be a part of a community that's crying out for just truth? And so we spent all of 2020 just engaging key stakeholders in the community, just learning and growing from what they had to say. And then 2021, we made our announcement. And from there, we've been sort of hitting the road, just exploring all the districts within the city, visiting all the key places that where, not just our story is connected to, but also key moments in Raleigh's history. And so we spent that time learning from community, growing from community. And so we wanted a campaign that was responsive to the voices and the stories, the hopes and the dreams of residents. And so we're literally walking that campaign through right now.
Yeah, awesome.
Difficult time to start a campaign, no doubt. We've had a lot of extra challenges to work around with, the pandemic, but it seems like you've done a great job
wanting to be out in the community so much when there's restrictions around that obviously must have been difficult just in and of itself.
Well, most of the challenges really created opportunities for us. So COVID created opportunities for us to see the thread that connects different groups of people. So some people may say, okay, Southeast Raleigh may not have nothing to do with North Raleigh, but their concerns were overlapping. Some people may say, those who are pedestrians, may not have as much in common with parents who are just trying to get their kids to school, but you can hear their themes overlapping. So we were able to hear a different tone from diverse voices around the city. And I think those restrictions gave us that opportunity to hear well. And so now we're able to act along those lines of, we have shared hopes, we have shared vision for Raleigh, we have shared concerns. How do we make sure that we carry that and sustain it over time?
I guess it goes back to you were working with students is bringing the humanity back.
That's right.
And seeing everyone as a human, and we're all struggling in different ways, but we're all struggling.
That's
and
right.
We all have hopes and dreams to come out of the struggle.
That's right.
Yeah, I guess a lot of emails and comments that we receive about Raleigh, obviously the growth and the growing pains that has as far as like the infrastructure, public transport, lack of public transport, and the cost of living, and affordable housing. Obviously, probably some of the key things that a common theme. What else would there be? And just the thing that we love about Raleigh is that it's Raleigh. It's not like a future Austin or Seattle or San Francisco. So obviously growth happens, and managed growth is important. We just hope that Raleigh can keep its identity and the fabric of the place. And people love living here. I interviewed somebody on my blog recently, and he said he traveled a lot through music, and he said it was surprising how many people don't like where they live.
Wow.
But we love so many people. We speak to everyone. Almost everyone we speak to loves living in Raleigh. So we feel very grateful for that. Unfortunate.
It's amazing just how well the groups that have interest in Raleigh, make their voices known. So if you want to plug into the bike community, they make their voices known about what's needed for quality lanes, quality bike, and quality of life. If you are connected to those who value greenways, you learn so much about greenways, how connected we are versus other areas in the country. If you want to learn about education, we have some of the best K-12 schools in the country. If you want to plug into the higher ed, the HBCUs, we have some of the more historic HBCUs in the country. They call Shaw, I think, the grandmother of all HBCUs. So it has a rich history. And then we have, again, some of the colleges that are giants in this city, like Meredith and Peace, that you would never even get a chance to hear from. Just a small plug. They are going to ask Kiara to speak.
That's great.
But their voices are loud enough to where you can see what does it mean as growth continues to have a quality of life in these groups, in these parts of the city. And for me, I value the chance to listen to people who are dedicated to their element, to what they value, to what they're passionate about. Some cities you don't get that coalition that has that much energy around particular topics. And here you can plug into a community, and it's almost like going to a university on whatever area you would like. And I haven't even touched hospitality. I've met since this journey some amazing entrepreneurs, restaurant leaders, chefs, servers. I mean, it's just, baristas. And that, I think, has been the most exciting, meeting these different leaders, plugging into their world and seeing what does it mean to live well, both as an employee in that space, then as a consumer in that space. And so for me, I just think it's those small crevices that produce the quality of life that people would say, I want to live in Raleigh. And so for us, I think we're trying to make sure that we are listening to the crevices and not necessarily always the big news.
So important because, I think our tagline on our side is pursuit of a vibrant life. Because I just feel like Raleigh is so tuned into vibrant life, and listening to you speak about these like crevices, it makes a lot of sense to me because I think Raleigh is full of passionate people, and it's a kind of city that lends itself to a lot of interest. People, whatever their interest or passion, they can find it here in Raleigh.
That's right.
And then they can find the community around that.
That's right. That's right.
And so, Kiara, you're speaking at, was it Peace University?
Yes, I am speaking at Peace. So they are doing a sexual assault abuse awareness week. And so I'll be speaking there, sharing my story. Haven't quite ironed out all the details yet, but yes, I'll be there.
You are the first to know. Yes.
Oh, there you go. We won't tell anyone until you announce it.
Don't tell anyone.
Just tell us a little bit more about your website and the focus of that, and your social media accounts and that as well. And you mentioned being in the female entrepreneur community and how you see that in Raleigh.
Yeah, so I decided to launch the Banana Moon a few years ago. I started the Banana Moon because when we would be outside at night, Miles would call the moon a banana. And I would try to correct him all the time just because I was like, it's not a banana. But what I realized was that, I was doing what a lot of people did to me as a child. I was stopping him from dreaming. And so the Banana Moon is an opportunity for me to be creative. To think outside the box. And it's such a reminder that I don't have to always be so rigid. I don't have to always walk the straight line. That it's okay for me to, go a different path. And so I started the Banana Moon because of that. And I didn't know what it would be, but I knew that I wanted to share about Miles. And then it kind of morphed into so much more. So now it's a lifestyle brand, and I talk about all things motherhood, travel, food, culture. Some columns that I write on are featured on there. And so, relationships is another one that I talk about. And so I just use that platform just to give my perspective on things, to talk about, what Miles enjoys, the art museums that we go to. And so, it is a legacy that I want to leave to Miles. I'm writing in my will, Terrance, I'm letting Terrance know today, that Miles has to keep it going.
Oh, wow.
Because I want my grandchildren to be able to go and they're, to be able to go and look and see the things that I did with Miles when he was a child. And it's going to be something that he can always go back and look at. And so, I started the Banana Moon because of that. Just the idea to be creative and to get outside and play. So
I love it.
I love it. It's
That's
a great
awesome.
side. I came across it after we had finished our RV trip. So at the end of 2019, I found you, and I was really wanted to dive into the woman entrepreneur world here in Raleigh because we were settling down, and I reached out and asked you if you knew any particular groups, and you recommended a couple to me: Thrive Motherhood, Women's Social Club, and I'm now a member of Women's Social Club, and so you were just a really handy resource for me.
Thank you for saying that. I mean, the community, the female entrepreneurs committee here is a force.
Yes, it is.
It is a force.
Force to be reckoned with.
Yes, and it makes me so happy when I can walk into spaces and see women leading, women sitting at the forefront, making a difference. And so I feel like, you know, those clubs like Women's Social Club pushes us out and says, you can do this, you can be a leader. And so, yeah, the female entrepreneur here are amazing. And I've had an opportunity to meet a lot of them. And I am really in awe of I'm in awe of every woman that I ever meet. But when you can be a business, when you can lead a business and do it effectively with so much grace and class, like I think I stand in awe. So yeah, the female entrepreneur group here is amazing.
Yeah, it's really thriving in Raleigh. It's incredible how many local businesses I go to that I love, and I don't even realize it's owned by a woman. That's and then I find out later, I'm like, wow, no wonder it's so great.
Yeah.
You know, there's a fun fact. We have one of the leading voices for entrepreneurship, period, and then women entrepreneurship here in the Triangle. Her name is Faye Horwick. And she is the leading voice, funded by Kaufman Foundation, connected to an organization called Forward Cities. And everywhere you look, her footprint is everywhere. And so even if you come into Raleigh, the campaign has been supported. If you come to any of our events, you're going to see small businesses. 99% of them are going to be women-led businesses. And that's just natural. That's not just a delivery. That's just natural. Those are the organizations that's out and, you know, and thriving. Even when we went and we adopted our puppy, Oakley, I mean, I think most of those were women-led organizations that we touched in that process as well. But Faye Horwick is one of the leading voices in the nation. And so we don't even just, you know, not just at the grassroots level, but even at the grass tops, we have some of the top voices in entrepreneurship right here in the Triangle.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, could you name 2 or 3 women you look up to in the community that the listeners could maybe follow online or something? It's kind of putting you on the spot.
It is Women's History Month too. So it's a great month to do it. Yep.
Wow, you know, there's so many that I can name.
Take your time.
But, you know, I think, wow.
We can come back to that if you want.
Yes. Let's come to that. Let's go back to that. I in the back of my head, I'm like, I have some people, but I want to make sure
let's do this. Just as speaking of schools and parenting and stuff like that, we recently interviewed somebody about all things Wake County schools. And we recently went through choosing a school for our kids. And it was very overwhelming. Like, as we mentioned in that podcast, in Australia, you just go to your local public school and that's it. There might be one private school to choose from, which a Catholic school that Caroline went to. What was important to you guys in choosing schooling for your son? And obviously you have the background in education and stuff like that, like, and obviously had a few team meetings and huddles around that. How did you navigate the process?
Yeah, so I actually recently wrote an article with School at Wake about how we decided to go forth in choosing a school for Miles. Very similar to you, I grew up in a place where you go whatever is in your neighborhood or your district, that is the school you go to. And, you know, and so coming to Raleigh, learning all of the ins and outs of choosing a school, it can be a little bit intimidating. And so Terrance and I are very different in how we approach when it was time for us, how we approached it. I was more so like, you know, I want to meet the teacher. I want to know her background. Like, I want to know, you know, if Miles falls, like, how is she loving him well, you know? And he had more of a, you know, statistic style, which I feel like helped balance us out. And so we ended up going with the school that we were zoned for, our base school, which happens to be phenomenal. And then I still asked those questions. You know, I still wanted to get to know the principal and the teachers and, you know, the demographics and the student to teacher ratio. You know, will Miles feel valued in the spaces? Because it's a huge, especially with me, I was stay-at-home mom for a little bit, and, you know, really taking that step and pushing him into a space can be kind of intimidating for a mother. And so for me, it's just always been that connection that they have with Miles, and is it diverse? Do they see Miles, as a person and not just, an extra body in a classroom? So that's how I look at it. But I know Terrance's, we've discussed this, he sees things, his opinion's a little different from mine.
What I found is the quality of a school is very difficult to see on paper, but we're trained to look at the school grade and look at the even from grade to grade. The experience is different. These are some of the values that we talked about. One, and on top of what Kiara mentioned, one is the leader of the school matters. That individual sets the tone, the environment. Also, that individual allows for the professionals inside to be innovative and creative, or can hamper that creativity. We've benefited from Principal Brown. She just retired. But Principal Brown at Green, she was amazing or she is amazing. And what made her significant to us is she literally said, I want Miles, like literally, like to us, I want Miles. You're not going to find that unless you go and you see the leader, meet the leader, understand, grow, and understand who that leader is. So school leadership is significant. Ed and C, not Ed and C, but Best and C often preaches that with their research, that school leadership, it matters more than most factors in the school. But the second thing for me is not just diversity of people, which I think is important in a school setting. I think that's the richness of school. It allows for your children to really, see the world. But the second part, I think, is the diversity of experiences. So Miles is speaking Mandarin. He's learning. You're really talking about, and this is all backed up in research. You can look at research and say the same thing. But the last piece I thought was most important is how easy is it for us to sustain these connections and relationships that he have in school, in the community. And so we've been able to do that well.
Yeah, they're really great things to think about, and I'm sure some haven't considered it before, even just going in to spend time meeting the leaders and the teachers. I think a lot of parents don't even realize they can go in and do that and how important it is. So they're really great things to think about. And I know that, Kiara, you travel a lot with Miles, so I'm curious to get your perspective on that and how you see that benefits him, because obviously we're big believers in that and have spent a lifetime dedicated to it, but I'm really curious as to what you've noticed in regards to his personal growth and world viewpoint, how travel has impacted that.
I would say the biggest thing that I've seen Miles take away from us traveling is just really the kindness that he's been able to gather. I think when you go to different places, you meet so many different people. We don't know their backgrounds. We don't know where they come from. But so, for example, we went to New Orleans, and you see a lot of things there. You see mental health. You see people, walking on the streets. They are homeless. It is a very real place to see things like that. And the opportunity to just be able to talk to Miles about what mental health is, and that person is a person, and that here's what's going on, and it creates this kindness in him where we'll be out and he'll say, oh, there's no, Mommy, we should pray for him, or we should, how can we help him? Mom, do you have this? And so just this ability to be able to adapt, but to treat everybody with so much kindness and treat them like they're a person. And so, travel the fun part is that, I get to explore and answer all these questions for him, and he gets to eat new food. And so we developed this philosophy with him that he can't say no to something unless he tries it once. And if he doesn't like it after that, he doesn't have to ever eat it again. But when we're this is our opportunity. We might not be able to eat this ever again. So let's go in right now. And now he eats a lot of things. One in particular is cauliflower.
Well, what's amazing to me is when we watch him educate someone else on something new that maybe their peer is learning. So when he becomes the instructor of the exploration, and so we recently he recently invited a friend to an NC State game, and this was this kid's first time in an arena. So you watch him out. Yes, yeah. And he was the instructor. He was showing him how to, but also on the reverse. Yeah, Miles understood how valuable the opportunity was. So it was really a two student, they was teaching each other. But it was really cool to see him lead the exploration and then also understand how valuable the experience was, from his peers.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing all that. Let's get into a few more lighthearted questions now about Raleigh and NC. So you got a friend visiting from out of town. Where are you taking them for breakfast, lunch, and dinner?
Our choices might be a little different, right?
That's fine.
But I feel like
options are good.
One place we can always agree on is New York Bagel in North Raleigh. Okay.
Wow, you went New York.
I've been. Is that near Lafayette Village?
Yes.
That one? Yeah.
That actually is an impressive bagel.
I did a blog post about best bagels, and they highly recommended.
Yes.
They're actually impressive.
Shameless plug there. Cinnamon raisin bagel with sausage, egg, and cheese.
Ooh. Wow. That sounds amazing.
What I like about that particular place, it doesn't matter if there's a thunderstorm, tornado, the line is going out of it.
Yes.
They're lined up. Yeah. People love their bagels, especially those who relocated from New York and Jersey and stuff. We get the comments all the time. Where can I find a good bagel?
I think that's a place we can agree on.
Yes. I would say my lunch would be a place at the table. I would have to say a place at the table. One, because you not only are you getting this sort of rich menu, you're also getting sort of a rich complexity and understanding of people and environment, class, and you don't really get that setting much often. And sort of table sort of most people are there for lunch, and so you get to see it at that time. So my lunch would be a table.
It's a good spot.
Great concept and staff and community and everything.
Dinner for me, I'm always gonna choose sushi. And my favorite sushi spot is City Market Sushi.
Oh, okay.
Haven't been
I've
there.
heard that one.
Yeah.
We should go.
Yeah.
Now she found a good place called, was it 12 Tacos? What is it called?
Oh, 12 Tacos and Tapas.
Oh, 13
13
tacos?
tacos. 13.
We were there the other day.
It was
Did y'all
unbelievable.
like it?
It was
amazing.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
I love their
rice.
Their taco
Oh my
fusion
God, that
menus.
rice.
Oh, it was unbelievable.
Yeah.
She said, you're going to really like our rice. I'm like, what? Rice is rice.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh my God, this is so good.
Yeah.
Really impressive.
Phenomenal. I love
Yes.
we spent a bit of time in Asia. We lived in Thailand, and one of my favorite dishes there, it's not a particular Thai dish, was masaman beef. So I had the masaman taco, which was very unique. I've never had that before. Yeah.
And the guacamole
I mean,
is like next level.
I mean, they are. I mean, I don't know how we found them, but they are literally.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
We got an opportunity to talk about stories. We got an opportunity to meet the chef and the owner.
Oh, Chef David.
He was great. And
his history in terms of starting restaurants is really impressive. Really impressive.
So 13
tacos is a good.
I can roll with that one.
13 tacos is a good.
Yeah, it's good.
So you like your sushi and your tacos.
Sushi and tacos. Yeah. If Miles had to choose a place, he would probably go with somewhere that has good fries and hot dogs.
Yeah.
He is a fries sort of connoisseur.
Regular,
we're like riding in a car.
Regular plain fries or like truffle fries or anything?
Regular. We have this debate in the car, right?
Yeah.
Okay, y'all. We're like sitting in the back. He's like, McDonald's or Burger King fries. And we're like all driving and we're trying to come up with the best fries. And so Miles, he's a big fry person. So if we're going somewhere, we got to make sure that they have fries. Almost like the coffee shop have to make sure they have cookies. He's like, do y'all have fries?
Fries and coffee.
What's the place we went to over there by where we used to live at?
What?
French restaurant.
Saint Jacques.
Uh-huh.
Number one.
So the restaurant is amazing. The chefs are amazing. The menu's amazing. Everything was Valentine. No, it wasn't Valentine. It was like dinner we went out. And
Is it on Wilmington?
It's on Wake Forest Road, right?
Falls of News.
Falls of News.
Falls of
Yeah.
News. Falls of-
Oh, St. Okay.
St. Rock
Thank
is
you.
good though.
Yeah, St. Rock is good.
I understand
You
it.
got me. Yeah. Totally different.
So
Don't
we
mind me.
get there. The menu is impressive, and they get to Miles, and Miles said, "Do you have fries?" And they were like, "No."
We have escargot though. Will that
Funny.
do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was like, they were like, no.
What about a date spot? You got a favorite date spot in and around the city somewhere?
Date night.
We actually explore often, but a non-food place. We went and we froze each other. What was the place called?
Cryo.
Oh, you went there.
Yes.
What was that like?
It was cold. I mean, your eyelashes are frozen. Everything is like.
You guys should, you just
It's
get
pretty
in there
cool.
and you just,
It's pretty cool.
We started talking and we were like, why do we do this?
This is the worst date ever.
Yeah.
It is so cool.
But
It's-
afterwards, you're really hungry.
it's a really impressive group, and it's right near in North Hills. So as soon as you leave, you can go to any restaurant over there. But yeah,
So yeah, we're trying to venture out and do more fun, like more hands-on dates. You know, because we have dinner often, and so I'm trying to be more intentional about scheduling things for us to do that require us to do something and communicate rather than look at a menu. But for date night, for dinner, we're kind of all over the place.
yeah. We try a little bit of everything,
We try a little bit of
and I love the chefs in Raleigh because they're competitive. They're like, come and try our.
Yes. So it's good everywhere you go.
Yeah.
And Kiara, you told me about an upcoming date that you're doing. You're in.
Oh yeah. Well, it's not
Sounds
in
fun.
Raleigh, but it's in Zebulon. We're gonna go do a pottery class. I told you about that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep, we're gonna do a pottery class in the middle of the day while Miles is at school, and I'm super excited about it.
We're expecting ghost scene
Yeah.
photographs on your Instagram.
Yes, I told her that. I didn't know she was gonna say that. I did tell her that. I was like, that is what I'm looking forward to the most. So we'll see. We'll see.
Too funny. You got to speak back to travel. You got a favorite getaway spot in North Carolina? Day trip, weekend getaway.
We have coast on each coast, not coast, but each side of North Carolina.
The mountains or the sea.
So we have friends in the mountains that we value, and that's a space where, it's absolutely gorgeous. Their living room, it's all glass, and so you get to see just all of nature. It's really nice. And so that's a very peaceful, wonderful, beautiful place. And then we have a friend who we met while we were doing our social justice tour on the East Coast, and she's in. Is it Nags?
It's like
Nags Head?
Nags
Yeah.
Head.
Outer Banks?
And
Beautiful.
she wants to brag about their food, so she takes it to all these different seafood places, and really impressive. She's doing a good job because we go back all the time. But Linda Wiley, she's just an amazing individual, and so we go and visit her on Miles loved the beach.
Yeah.
He does.
Ever since he was born,
Okay.
Miles is
The
a big
water.
beach.
He loves
He's
being
a
in the
big beach
water.
person, so we always have to go to the beach for Miles, and so we can go coast to coast, and so we just love the complexity of North Carolina, where you're able to have a mountain trip and a
That's
beach
what
trip.
we love. Like 2 hours to the coast and
Yes.
like near the Smoky Mountains,
Yes.
Beach Parkway, and
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, next time you're in Nags Head, go to the Noosa Grill. It's a relatively new restaurant owned by an Australian, because in Australia there's a beach called Noosa Beach, and really great food.
famous
Exceptional
surfing,
food
famous
with
surfing spot
seafood.
in Australia.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
Awesome.
my tip. So one question. Describe each other's personality in 3 words.
Oh, you want him to describe me?
Mhm.
You-
Oh.
I would have to say passionate. I think everything she does, she leads with just this intense passion. That passion is directly linked to commitment. So if she's passionate about a project or a person or a thing or idea, there's going to be a high level of commitment to that. And then the third part, I think that's why everybody gravitate towards Kiara, is that she's just resilient. I think there's a resiliency to her story that even people in Arkansas where she grew up, they'll call them like, man, I would have never, like you really overcame and just conquered a lot. And so I think those would be, sort of passionate, commitment, and then resilient.
Love it.
Great qualities.
Thank you. I would say for Terrance, one of the biggest things that I admire about him is his passion for our family. Like he's one of those people where, if the family's coming together, it's because of his effort. Mm-hmm. It's his ability to be able to bring people together regardless of their differences. And so, like he said, very similar to me, when he's passionate about something, like he's going to make it happen. So, if he wants to organize a game night for the family, he's the one that's making all the calls to bring people together. I would say another thing that I really admire about him is how he loves our son. And, I can go on and on about how he's there for Miles and things like that. But I think the love that he shows him in such an unconditional way, it is to be admired. And so that, and then I would say he's an amazing leader. Regardless of what aspect it might be in, whether it be job, at home, leader of a project, chair of whatever, Terrance leads in such a way where you're like, I want to be a part of that. And people pour into him often, but he also pours into people. And so I think, one of the biggest things about being an effective leader is listening to people and understanding what they're saying. And he has a way of doing that no matter who you are or where you come from. And so as a leader, not just in our home, but overall, I feel like he does a great job at just loving people well. And I think that's where the truth, transparency, and trust comes from. It's just how passionate and committed he is as a leader. So
yeah, I must say I love hearing that, and I felt that from both of you. We met for coffee, and when we were with both of you, I felt that energy from you both, the presence, the listening, and the storytelling, and just you felt part of a conversation, and we were brought into that with the both of you. So I can see what you said to each other. I'm just from what I've noticed as an outsider, I can definitely see and attest to.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
One last question, guys. We ask all our guests this question because our site is called This is Raleigh. When you hear those words, what comes to mind? Whether it's a person, a place, an event, a dish, a building. When you hear the words This is Raleigh, help.
I would have to say just potential. Since the moment that I was reintroduced really to my career here in Raleigh, they were always talking about this growth and this amazing magnet. I mean, even when we talked to you, you said you was hearing this years ago. Whenever I am sharing my story or where my son was born, or where we were married, people know Raleigh. Even when we recently went to San Francisco, they know about Raleigh. They know about Raleigh because there's a potential there that's sort of budding and is right on the cuffs of really being a city that people will no longer say is a secret. And so
that's great.
The phrase that comes to my mind, I chose a phrase: all are welcome. No matter what walk of life you come from, no matter, if you love bikes, if you love greenways, if if you're passionate about education and things like that, there is a place for you here. And so all are welcome.
Yeah.
Amazing.
That's a great way.
Thanks, guys. This has been amazing.
This is awesome.
Thank you for sharing your personal stories and your professional background and stories as well. This has been great. Guys, listen at home. If you enjoyed this episode, I'm sure you did, please leave a comment, a review, share it with your friends, share the love. And if anyone's looking to create their own podcast or need some help with that, check out Jason and the team at Effluence Media, and they'll help you get started podcasting.
Yeah, and we'll have all the information in the show notes. But if you could, before we jump off, let everyone listening know how they can connect with you.
Yeah, so it's Truth for Raleigh. That's my first name, Terrance Ruth. My initials, Truth for Raleigh, at either Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter. You can find us at Truth for Raleigh, and that is the number 4. The website's the same, Truth for Raleigh. So wherever you go, if you're searching Terrance Ruth, it's going to be Truth for Raleigh.
Great.
And then
just to kind of piggyback off of Terrance, I'm just all things the Banana Moon. Instagram is just the Banana Moon blog. Everything else is the Banana Moon. So
great.
You type that in, you should be able to find me.
Very memorable.
Yeah.
Both.
Both. Yeah.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you.
Really appreciate it.
Appreciate
you.
it. Thank you.
Thank you.